Hello Year 10 and welcome to our third lesson in Python. In this lesson you're going to be introduced to a programming concept called selection, allowing us to make branches or decisions within our programming. So we'll begin the lesson and, well, as I've just explained, we're going to look at this element of how we can evaluate statements and then execute code based on, well, is that statement true or is it statement false? And that's what we call selection in programming. So you should know what to do. Get onto your replet, take a new replet, give it a sensible name, possibly call it lesson 3, and we can begin the lesson. The first thing I want you to do is copy that into your replet, run it, and try and figure out what's happening. Now's a good time to pause the video, and I'm going to go through the code. So you've copied this into your screen, and when I run it, well, we know these first 3 lines are just going to print out output on the screen, but it's going to ask me to input into a variable called password. Then we move on to our conditional statement. If the password evaluates to Rathmore123, we're into the system, else we failed. So a conditional statement will always evaluate to 2 possible outcomes, true or false. So I run this and let's put in false. Password is pass, access denied. But if I run it this time and I put in Rathmore123, we're going to evaluate the conditional statement. It's true and our access is granted. And that is the basics. In fact, that is conditional statements and if statements or selection in Python. And here is the grammar or the syntax. We evaluate a conditional statement to true. If I look out the window and it is raining, I know, take my umbrella, take my raincoat, or drive to work. Do you know, that's what I'm going to do if it's true. Else, if it's false, walk, leave umbrella at home. You know, we can evaluate the statements and execute instructions based on if the statement's true or if it's false. And it's not only just the evaluation operator we can use. Well, if it's not raining, what can I do? Well, leave the umbrella at home and walk to school. We can also use mathematical operators, greater than, less than, greater than or equals to, less than or equals to, which we'll see in the next couple of examples. So what you should note, and luckily Replit looks after it, is indentation. After an if statement, we've got the colon, which triggers the indentation and will only execute the blocks of codes that is indented. So they get logged onto the system, and it will say access granted, then it will say hello. So if we run this here and we put in the correct password, it only executes the block of code that has been indented. And we move on to an example that deals with ints or whole numbers, and look, we're using a mathematical operator, greater than or less than. So now's a good time to pause the video and copy that in and execute the code to see what's happening. And if you've executed that code, you will see, very straightforward, it asks to enter a score. It evaluates the conditional statement this time. Is the variable greater than or equal to 60? So if I put in 59, I failed. But if I score 60, I've passed. Now we can develop this to evaluate multiple conditional statements, and we call that the ELIF. So I've got multiple different cases. Well, if you score greater than 80, we know you're an A. But if it's greater than or equal to 70, it's a B, or greater than or equal to 60, it's a C. So I'm going to develop the program, and I want you to do this as well. So I'm going to remove this clause here, the else clause, and I've got it typed in here. I'm going to uncomment this part of the statement, and I'll just tidy that up. So when we execute it, I'm inputting the score, and it's got 4 clauses. 4 what we call cases. If the score is greater than 80, you'll see we get an A. So for example, this time I run it, 81, great A. But we run it again and I get 45, fail. We run it and we get 63, we should have a C. We run it and we get 73, should be a B, and we've seen the great A. So we've evaluated multiple conditional statements and we've executed. Point to remember, the if statement and the ELIF statement need a conditional statement to evaluate, whereas the else just executes whatever else is left or whatever else we want to happen, it will execute in the else block. So that takes us on to your task for this week. You're going to be using input statements, ELIF statements and else. So the basic task, that you're able to enter in a speed that has been caught from a speed camera, and if it's over 70 mile an hour, issue a fine, else no action. Then you're going to develop with ELIF statements that we've got now 3 clauses. We'll issue a warning if it's over 75 they get fined, if it's between 70 and 75 issue a warning, and if it's less than 70 no action. And then as an extension we expect you that possibly, what about a variable that will allow them to input the vehicle registration and the speed, and then use your print statements and your knowledge of output to tidy up and make it a user-friendly interface. Again, if you have any questions, year 10, post to the team, and your teachers or your classmates will it'll allow them to help you. Good luck.